Good morning, everybody. It's Friday. Hope everybody's got some good plans for the weekend. I know I do. It involves cabin 2 and cabin 1. So, sun's just coming up behind me there. I'm kind of in a little bit of a rush this morning. I've got rain that's going to be coming in probably about 10 or 11 o'clock this morning. So, I'm not going to get too crazy into getting going on these cabins here. I'm going to do what I can until the rain shows up. So, first thing, I want to finish the hurricane straps, or the strapping that I put underneath. I got a box nails. I had a big box store the other day. Got 5 pounds of nails for less than 20 bucks. So, to me it was worth it, not spending $10 for a pound. So what would have cost me 50 at my local Ace, I picked up it for less than 20 at Lowe's. But it's a convenience thing. And so what, I had to bump my hammering by a couple days. No big deal. So I'll have an update here later on in the video about the flooring. I know I put out that video talking about the flooring and the sizing and stuff like that. Figured it out, of course. Like I said in the video, it's definitely on me. I just don't understand it. But we've pretty much figured it out and figure out what's got to go on. And yeah, so I'll talk about that later on once I get the strapping in, and then I'll focus. Next thing after the strapping is the floor's got to go down. So I'm going to discuss that at that time. So I'm going to time lapse you guys here. There's nothing too exciting about me hammering in a couple nails. So like I said, once we'll get that, we'll move on. All right, guys, here we go. All right, guys, well, as it's starting to get darker and darker here, I just managed to finish up all of the strapping here on this side and the other side there. Those weren't even in my plans and not really required in my area, but, it's kind of, I wouldn't say cheap insurance, but if I have them and going to use them, why not put them on? So, and then, of course, obviously if they're on, they got to be on correctly. So that's why I fill all the holes and kind of follow the directions. Speaking of following directions, this is my Advantex subfloor here. And I told you guys I would address this later on in the video. And this is how it goes. So my problem was that my blocking that I put in, the 3 strands of blocking here, I thought that would have something to do with, the structural integrity of the subfloor. Well, normally it would. So my plans call for standard 4x8 plywood to go on the floor. Because of how I'm building these cabins, and this is going to be exposed to the weather before I can get the roof and that structure on, I wanted more of a water resistant floor to be on it. And the stuff is great. So, I mean, it is a great product and it works well, but you just got to figure out what the hell to do with it. So, you know, this is not just like putting down plywood. If I was to put down plywood, so this is 3 sheets next to each other here. Now, when I assemble this, they're going to be staggered, so don't think that I'm going to have these like next to each other. I put these on here just for an example now, so, or just to kind of give you an idea about how this needs to be cut or secured to the floor. So this stuff actually calls for, whereas normal plywood subfloor would basically have to be 6 inches along the edges and then 12 foot in the middle, or I'm sorry, 12 inches spacing in the middle. This stuff only requires 6-inch spacing along the edges, the rim joist, and then 6 inches along the short axis of the panels. Anywhere in the middle that's not on the rim joist, it gets 12-inch spacing. And you can see that here, these circles are 6 inches, okay? So it's just kind of a guide. They're 6 inches apart. The next, along the long axis here, the only place you're supposed to nail, again, if it's not on a rim joist, is on your joists. You see the circles are here. The diamonds are for 19.5 on center, and then the squares are for 24 on center. So my joists are 16 on center. So it's circle, circle, and then this is a square because this is 2 feet, or 4 feet, I'm sorry, that's the middle of the sheet. And then circle, circle, and then here at the end where I would, again, along the short axis, I would do 6 inches on center. So that's all required. My blocking has nothing to do with it. Okay, so from what I understand, when these panels, the tongue and groove is engaged, think of your floor, this subfloor, as a single sheet. Don't even think, as long as your joists are lined up, that's the only place it needs to be nailed into. So I glue and screw my subfloor, so, you know, you'll see that process about how they do that. So what this means is, down here on the end, so I'll have a seam here, okay, and then I will, once I get more of this done, I will mark this distance and then have to rip this panel so I get full coverage down over my rim joist. So that's where my issue came in. I thought, so I needed, my plans called for 7 sheets to cover this floor and 7 sheets of plywood, and that would work. The problem is, because I'm going to have a 2-foot ripped sheet on there at the far end, a 2-foot ripped sheet here in the middle, and then actually like a quarter panel here on this end. So it'll be full sheet, quarter. When I say full sheet, I mean a 2-foot ripped section. Once, because the seam here, you can see my nails here, this is where my blocking is, it's off. So if I ripped this board at 2 feet and then use the other 2 feet to fill that in, it's going to end up short. It's not going to be even. I may not be explaining this the best as I can, but the bottom line is I had to buy another sheet. So if, you know, that's how it goes. You need more material. It doesn't matter what your blocking looks like. As long as your joists are straight, everything will work out fine. You just have to think of the floor as a single sheet. So you need to have as much subfloor down as you need to cover your floor area. If that means you have to go out and buy extra sheets, you have to go out and buy extra sheets. So if your floor was 12 feet wide, okay, I showed this kind of the other day. Well, I may be able to show this pretty well because I have a 4-foot area, a 4-foot area, and a 4-foot area. Let me pause you here. I'll be right back. Just kind of slid this over here just to give you an example. So if you had a 12-foot wide floor in a cabin, much like I do on cabin 1 and cabin 3, and just ignore this 2-foot extension out here, and you said, oh, I just need And always remember to stagger your seams. I'm having this down just for an example like this. So I lined up the edge of the subfloor here with this edge, right? So then we come out 1, 2, 3 sheets later. It's obviously not 12 feet. You're gonna have to trust me that that this measurement's correct. Just, we'll have to take that. So you have this gap here. Between this, in my example right now, this would be your rim joist. So you need coverage, what I say the other day, like 1.5 inches, or, well, that's 2 inches. Okay, you're gonna need 2 more inches of product to cover that area. That's the answer. You have to buy more product. Your framing is not off. There's nothing wrong with what you're doing. It's just you have to buy more product to fill that gap. So if it was me, and what I probably plan to do with cabin 4, I believe, is going to have another, or no, cabin 5 will have a 12-foot wide deck. Anyway, so what I probably plan to do, I could not find anything that related to how small of a piece would be considered okay. I just don't think that a 2-inch piece like this, now granted, it's going to be in the groove. You're going to have to buy more material anyway. This is kind of what I'm getting at. So I'm thinking what I might do is actually slide this way. By maybe maybe a foot, maybe 2 feet, something like that. I would then rip my board to fit the length of whatever the measurement is from here to here. Again, to provide a larger board platform. And then down here on the front, of course I didn't push this squarely down, I would rip this off the front. Yeah, I don't know. You'd have to think about that, what might work best for you. I'm thinking now, if they told me, let's get this back. It's somewhat close. If they told me that it doesn't matter what this distance is, as long as you have the tongue engaged into this piece, it should act as a solid piece. So I'm guessing that you're fine here with a 2-inch piece. I can't imagine why that would be. But, so, to cover this 12-foot section, let's say your cabin is 24 feet long, you're going to have 3 sheets that extra you're going to have to buy to get 2 inches of each of the tongue that would go in here. You know what I'm saying? So because you wouldn't want to just rip one piece, use the tongue, and then the next piece use the same piece you just ripped off of and have no tongue on it, because then you would have no support for that piece. I can even push down on this and you can see it kind of moving. So you definitely want the tongue in place. So in that example, you'd have to buy 3 extra sheets to get 2, 4, 6 inches total of product, and you'd basically have 3 sheets that you would just, you know, find another use for, you OSB around the job site or something. But that's the gist. That's the gist. So bottom line is, you're just going to have to buy more product. I assume it saves them money in that they don't have to retool their factory, and that, you know, these products probably come off the line at 48 inches, but once they rip the tongue and groove into it, it shortens it up. So they didn't have to retool, and then you as the consumer have to buy more material. And yeah, that's just kind of how it is. That's what I've come up with. So I'm actually going to start putting down some of this sheeting I'll probably work from this direction here and then work back so I can get that final measurement on the back here pretty accurate. Here we go. Get going. I just want to show you what's going to happen here and the things I use. So I do use the Advantech Subfloor adhesive. It comes in this crazy 6-pack with this gun attachment and stuff like that. It seems to work great. I've had no issues with cabins 1 or 3 putting that on. And then I've got a whole tub here. These are Simpson screws. These are number 8 bugle head, T20 I believe is the size of that star there, and they're stainless. So it's again a Simpson product. There's the tag for it. These have been great. They recommend, I think, as a bugle head screw. So that's just literally just talking about that part of it there at the top, the way it looks like the end of a bugle, like that. So and these have to be, I believe it's within a 1/2 inch of the edge of the board, and then just, you know, at these designated screw-in spots. And then of course my drill driver there. That's I don't have a collating gun to knock this out like super quick, so this is again it's an effort in patience, which, you know, I'm okay with here doing this. So I'm going to put adhesive down on each of the joists, covering the first 8-foot piece, and then I'm going to place it down and then really kind of center it, make sure it's square, and then I'll start to screw it down. So that was one panel. Everything went just fine. So again, just to recap, 6 inches on center here for securing it. I screw it. And then because this is the rim of it here, I got 6 inches, at least 6 inches. I put 2 screws in between each joist, so it's a little less than 6 inches. And then the short axis up there also gets 6 inches. But then everything else in between is only on the joists. And they are, again, just using their guides. They have these guides on here. So basically the screws, or the circles, let you know where, circles and squares in my case, let you know where to put your fastener. So I've got another, I'm going to put another full sheet here, and then a 1/2 sheet is going to go down there in the far end. So let's get working. We're back up here at the sawmill, and I'm going to make quick work out of this little project here. So to make the front porch, it's made up of all 6x material, so like 1x6s. So I need 7 12-footers, and I need 7 8-footers 1x6s. So I have a variety of widths here. Okay, and there's 7 boards there. These are my 12-foot boards. And so we're going to make 2 cuts. I'm going to take some off the top here, level it out, and then I'll turn them over and I'll make my second cut to make them 6 inches. So that's just to kind of get rid of any kind of waviness or any bark that seems to be left over on one side or the other. So we'll see how it goes. Just like that, I've got 7 boards that are 6 inches wide. They are a variety of lengths. I need to cut them when I get down there. They're supposed to be 2 inches longer than 12 foot. So based on the fact that I've cut just about all of my logs, you know, in excess of 6 inches. So, you know, a 10-foot log is usually 10.6 and a 12-foot log is usually 12.6, something like that. I don't have any doubt that these are going to be long enough so I can cut them down a little bit. So yeah, that made quick work out of it. I was gonna stuff them through my table saw, but I figured this would probably be a kind of a quicker way to do it. And it leaves that kind of rough sawn edge on there. All right, let me move on. I need to do the same thing with some 8-footers. Somewhat of an executive decision here. I'm going to use 12-foot material for it all. I have excess 12-foot material. I don't really have a big use for 12-foot material. It is my smallest stack of lumber. So I'm just going to let it run wild on each side, and then I will make a cut with my circular saw once I get down there to cut them all to length. So I've got one more set here. These are going to be 1x6s, and then I have one set of 1x8s that are going to be on the edge of the porch. So let me get to cutting. Okay, these last 2 boards here, a little wider, but they're going to be my 1x8s. Just like that, guys, I got 16 boards, bunch of 1x6s and then a couple 1x8s there. So it's on my little traveling system here. So we'll get this down the hill and see what we can't get knocked out before the rain shows up. I'm going to get this on here, just kind of dry fit it here to see how things look, and it looks absolutely spectacular. I'm supposed to have, my plans call for a 2-inch overlay, just about all overhang, just about the whole way around. So it looks like I should be able to get that without any issues, at least up on this end. And then down on this end, it looks, yeah, it won't be any problem down here. So in the front is very even as it comes across. So I'm super happy with it. So I'm going to pull some of this away. I'm just going to start nailing from the back to the front. And yeah, we're going to get that done. The things I haven't talked about yet with this lumber, it is pretty dry. It's certainly, the other stuff I have on cabins 1 and 3 was super green when I put it on, so it shrank a good bit, so it created its own gaps. This is much drier than that wood, so I'm going to actually gap these. I'm going to put a nail, 8-penny nail, in between the boards to create its own little gap. So we'll be curious to see how much it shrinks, if any, over time. Gang, I cannot believe we got this much done today after getting up and seeing rain at 10 o'clock, then rain at 12 o'clock. So with that cut there, cutting those off, that gave me my 2-inch overhang all the way around. Gapping the boards worked out well, and I think that was probably in the plan. Just because the overhang on the front here is just over 2 inches. So I can't be more happy with it than what I am. It looks great. It's got that cabin look I want to it. Everything lined up. It's a little bit of a warpy board right here, but I mean, it's instead of an 1/8, it might be 3/16. That gap, that's absolutely fine in my book. It looks fantastic, and we're excited to be this far with this. You probably saw my neighbor there walking back and forth. He rode his lawn tractor over here. It's really interesting. He's a nice guy. He's great. He's a great neighbor. So yeah, so final look on this. I wasn't really expecting to get near this done today as far as what we're looking at, so it's super exciting. Glad to have it done. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to throw a plastic sheet over this, and this is really going to be kind of like a work area for finishing up cabins 1 and 3, and then we'll move on here to cabin 2. But you never know. You never know. Gang, from on top of what will soon be cabin 2, we're going to say farewell for today. It was a great day. I'm glad you guys are hanging out with me. I'm not quite sure how long this one's going to be. I'm not quite sure what I time-lapsed you guys with and whatnot. So boring stuff, just fast forward through, and who knows, I always have something to say. So listen, guys, as usual, thanks for hanging out with me. It's Friday. Go enjoy yourself this weekend. I will be right here. We'll see you on the next one.